Morning, children. Moving on with lecture 3, corporate analysis. Till now, we have discussed about the environment, the external environment, and the internal environment, the way it impacts the organization, the culture, and we've also studied about the market structure, how a product is put in the market, what are different kind of strategic group, different kinds of companies and industries that are divided on the basis of the strategies they adopt. But only scanning the environment, the internal and external environment, does not suffice. So it's also important to go into the detail in order to find out the root cause of the problem pertaining by doing the corporate analysis. It is known as internal corporate analysis. So corporate analysis is important in order to find out the details or the problem or the loopholes in the structuring of the organization, because organization capabilities go beyond the sales and profit. It is not only about the sales and profit and loss or the net worth. It is also concerned with the state and the mind and outlook of the firm, with what vision the organization is moving forward. It is a matter of entrepreneur interpretation. That is, we call it as an entrepreneur interpretation. So when we talk about this strategy, there are different kind of strategy, there are different kind of strategic group. So corporate strategy here basically means the matching game between the environmental opportunities, and the opportunities that are given by the environment, and the strength and the weaknesses of the organization in order to meet the competition that is continuously and always dynamic. For those companies who will not stand the competition, they will not sustain in the market, and they will be outcasted by the competitors or the rivals, or maybe by the substitute companies of their product. So organizations assess their strengths and weaknesses, and it is also called as organization audit. So this is a form of internal corporate analysis. To study corporate analysis, company will go into the detail to study about the resources about the organization and the chain of value that is created by the organization functioning. So the first is the resource-based strategy. So what are actually the resources? Resources are the organizational assets and are thus the basic building blocks of the organization. They include physical assets such as the plant, equipment, and location, human assets in terms of the number of people they employ, that is the human capital, and the skills and the organization asset, such as the culture and the reputation. So capability is another term that refer to the corporation's ability to exploit resources. So they may consist of business processes and the routines that manage the interaction among resources to convert, to transform inputs into the outputs. For example, you can put that a company's marketing capability can be based on the interaction among its marketing specialists and the information technology, and obviously is the financial resources. So capability is functionally based and it's resident in a particular function, such as marketing capabilities, manufacturing capabilities, or human resource, that is the management capabilities. So one other term that pops in here is between the competency. So there's a difference between the competency and the skill. Competency is always inborn, it is innate. The person is born with the competent. I may be competent for one thing, but I'm not skilled for that thing. Whereas I have acquired the skill, I'm equally competent. Whereas I have only acquired the skill, but I'm not competent to do that. But the competency is always called as dakshata. It is a cross-functional integration and coordination of capabilities. For example, competency new product development in one division of a corporation may be the consequence of the integrated MIS capabilities, that is marketing capabilities, research and development capabilities, and production capabilities within the division. So core competency here, what it implies? It implies that it's a collection of competencies that cross divisional boundaries are widespread within the corporation, and it's something that corporation can do exceedingly. Thus, new product development would be core competency if it goes beyond and does exceedingly well. So, when we talk about as far as the VRIO framework as given by the Burney, so he proposes 4 questions to be evaluated for the firm's competencies. The first is the value. Value means, does it provide competitive advantage? What is the value of a company? Number 2, the rareness. Do that value is possessed by the other competitors also in the market? Imitability. Is it costly for others to imitate? Can it be easily imitated? And last, organization. Is the firm organized to exploit the resources? So, how do resources determine competitive advantage? Uh, it is Grants has given the 5-step resource-based approach as it is visible in the slide. So first of all, they identify and classify the firm's resources in terms of the strength and weaknesses. Then you are combining the firm's strengths into specific capabilities known as the core competencies of the organization. You are appraising the profit potential of these capabilities and competencies in terms of their potential for sustainable competitive advantage and the ability to obviously harvest the profits that the company is giving, resulting from their use. Apart from that, select the strategy. That is the fourth step, selecting the strategy that best exploit the firm's capabilities and competency relative to the external opportunities or maybe the threats. Finally, identifying the resource gap and invest in upgrading the weaknesses that the company is dealing into. So here, the customer preferences are floating, and the identification of customers and the technology for serving them as fast changing. A market forces strategy may not provide the stability and constancy of the direction. Hence, there's a need to define the firm strategy in terms of what it is capable. That you're talking about the core competency. So this is the example. This is the chart that shows. So it depicts that what determines the sustainability. That is what determines the sustainability of an advantage. So ability of a firm to use its resources, capabilities, and competency to develop a competitive advantage through distinctive competencies does not mean it will be able to sustain it. Two basic characteristics are durability. Number two, imitability. Durability, how long the product is going, how long you are sustaining, what are your underlying resources, capabilities, or core competencies are depreciating over the period of time. What is imitability? That is the rate at which firms' underlying resources, capabilities, or core competencies can be duplicated or be copied by the others. Distinctive competencies can be easily imitated to the extent that it is transparent, transferable, and replicable. So here the resource-based view premises that each firm possesses a unique bundle of resources. Every organization is unique and it has its own set of resources and competencies. Similarly, there are tangible and intangible assets and the organization capabilities to make use of these assets, both tangible and intangible. Each firm develops the competencies from these resources, from these available resources of the company, and thus they put it used to effective way, thereby becoming the sources of the firm's competitive advantage. So this kind of a structure was proposed by Miller. Miller, he said that what are the resources? So he said that resources are defined as the stock of assets and skills that belongs to an organization at a particular period of time. That means that you have a stock, you have an inventory of the stock, every asset and the skills that is borne by the organization at one particular time. So it can also be viewed as a factor input into the production process. That those are the tangible assets and the intangible assets and the skills possessed by people. That is the human capital working at various levels. It is equally important that these essential differences between the assets and skills are always there. So assets are basically related to having, whereas skills belong to doing. What kind of things you are honing and what kind of skills you are using to optimize your products. So assets are incapable of acting on their own. Their assets are utilized, thereby utilizing the principle of optimum utilization of resources. Skills, on the contrary, refer to the individual abilities of human beings to perform a piece of skill. That means you may be skilled at one thing. It is a kind of asset that can be used to create other asset. That means there's always a human capital word that is in use for the human asset. And who is the human capital and an asset in an organization? Obviously, the employee. The companies invest a lot of money into the training their assets and developing them from mere employee to an asset which can reap profit for them in the future. So simple framework like resources are divided into assets and skills. Assets are always tangible and intangible. Capabilities and competencies, just like I discussed. So I'll just give a quick recap over what is capabilities and competencies. RBV, that is a resource review, defines capability as the ability of a bundle of resources to perform an activity. Like I just discussed, that capability refers to the corporation's ability to exploit its resources. They may consist of the business process and the routines that manage the interaction among resources, transform inputs into outputs, whereas competency is a cross-functional integration and coordination of capabilities. Like I gave the example of the new product development of a particular company. So RBB defines capability as the ability of a bundle of resources that the company harnesses to perform the particular activity. It is a way of combining the assets, that is the people and the process, to transfer the inputs into outputs, as what your slide is saying. Physical assets, financial resources, and human skill are of no use unless they are optimized and they are put in a better way. They are being used judiciously in order to produce results, reaching the desired results, to be more precise. So C is equal to F, that is we have TA, IA, and S, where C is capability, TA is tangible assets, I are intangible assets, and S is the skills. Capabilities, on the contrary, reflect the firm capacity, how you're deploying the resources that have been purposefully integrated to achieve a desired answer, that is the desired output. They emerge over time through a complex process of interaction between tangible and intangible resources. The whole purpose here is to create and exploit external opportunities, harness the external opportunities, and develop the sustainable advantage over rivals, that is over the competitors, whether they're coming with the substitute products or there is a scare or threat of the other company taking over the current market segment or the customer segment. So, though repetition and constant practice, capabilities become stronger and more valuable strategically. So this is the chart that shows that strategic competitiveness is always influenced by giving the competitive, and how competitive advantages can be gained by individual skills. That means you're harnessing the individual skills, that is of employee, that is of human capital. Apart from that, what organizations has a capability, the tangible assets, intangible assets, the knowledge bank, that is the intelligence, that is a competitive intelligence being used, and the core competency of the organization. What all is required? Competence, capability, and skill. The ability of an organization to increase the stock of targeted resources, achieve its purpose. Capability is the ability of set of resources to integratively perform a task or an activity, and skill obviously is an ability of individuals that can be enhanced or that get outcasted over the period of time, and that is continuous updation on the part of the company and on the part of the employer. This is the another organization capability and competitive advantage. RBB also assumes that each firm is a collection of unique resources. Resource based view, what are the resources? Resource based view approach always assumes that a firm is always having a collection of unique resources and capabilities which determines the firm strategy. That means on the basis of this, the strategy design the strategy for the firm. Capability drivers, in simple terms, are the basic economic and strategic means by which a firm builds an underlying source of competitive advantage in the market or in a particular industry segment. Some of the example capability drivers are as follows: like patents. Company have a unique patency, they get it patented on their name. License, the company has a unique license, this is also their resource. Location, the geographical location of a company. The distribution channel, what kind of distribution channel the company has used, what kind of distribution channel the company has networked or developed. Employee motivations, and despite of having all things positive, the employees are not motivated, they're not skilled to harness the resources, then entire task will go for a toss. Design skills, process improvement, and interrelationship among the all products and the resources. So there were several analysis in terms of approaches to internal analysis. We'll move that. We'll again study here SWOT analysis, this basic terminology, the SWOT analysis, what the SWOT analysis is all about. So just a glimpse of what it is all about. We have discussed it in the previous lectures. I just want to repeat it again, because when you talk about the resources, you also need to discuss about the SWOT analysis. So this is one of the first approaches to the internal analysis that we call as corporate analysis in a nutshell. SWOT analysis is an acronym we all know for the internal strength and weakness of a firm and the external opportunities and threats that the companies are facing. So SWOT analysis enables the manager to have a very quick review of the firm strategic situation, and it also helps in assessing whether there is a sound balance between the internal resources and the external environment. That is the values and external, that is EVR congruence. You can see the pie chart over here. Venn diagram is drawn where strength and weakness, opportunity, threats, and values. So SWOT is like matching the strength and opportunities and threats, and strategies and vision comes in as a shaded area. What is the terminology? The word strength implies competitive advantage and other distinct competencies which a firm enjoys in the market. Having an ability to deliver against the placement of an order within 12 hours is a strength to a firm if customers require delivery within a day and its major competitors are not able to fulfill their requirements. Suppose you placed an order, or suppose we placed an order for the pizza. Pizza has a strategy that 30 minutes when you will get your pizza, else it is free. So it is their competency to deliver the pizza to any location in that periphery within 30 minutes, or else they will not take the money out of it. This is their strength, this is their competency. They have designed the strategy and the mechanism like that they have to develop in 30, keeping the environmental constraints into mind. A strength is only a strength if it is something that is of value. It is a strength. It will be called as a strength because if it is adding a value to a particular thing and value to customer, then is also something which a firm does better than a competitor. Right? I am selling good products than my rivals and my competitors. This is my USP. This is my strength. This is unique to me, and obviously, is adding value to the market. Is adding value to the customers. That is the reason I am still. That is the company is still owning the market and always able to be at number one in the position when the rating is done. So the term weakness refers to an inherent limitation that creates a strategic disadvantage for a firm. It could come from an inappropriate location, uneconomical operations, outdated outdated plant, workout machinery, or militant labor, etc. So this is the SWOT analysis, an example SWOT analysis of a Hero Honda two-wheeler company. So what are the strengths for the Honda? Strengths for the Hero Honda, the two-wheeler company, were the strong international brand name because Hero is an Indian brand. Honda is the international brand. Leadership position in motorcycles. It has a leading brand in the two-wheeler segment. It is an excellent business practices. Undiluted focus on urban youth because bikes are basically focused on the youth or the teenagers, and it has a technological edge and zero debt company. So these are the strengths for the two-wheeler company, that is Hero Honda. What are the opportunities for the company? Scope for innovation, hybrid products, pop-up brands could be launched, bridge the gap between 100cc and 150cc segment. Weaknesses, price competition, hotting up every coming Yamaha, Kawasaki, Bajaj, and Honda. Everybody is coming with their own market and own product into bikes and with different kind of aesthetics they work on in order to influence the youth. So this is the threat for them. That is a threat of the competitors or the price competitors relying too much on two brand leaders, Splendor and Passion, zero product in 125cc region. These are the weaknesses for the company. What about the threats? Technology partnership with Honda ends in 2004, now extend up to 2015. Honda owns 100% subsidiary. Strict emission norms. There are emission norms that have been changing. Catalytic converter fitted models. Four-stroke segment getting crowded. It volumes way can't expect many country where Honda is present. So this when we have done the SWOT analysis for Hero Honda two-wheelers, so we got a glimpse. Similarly, you also find out the strength, weakness, opportunity threats for any brand of your choice, trying to identify just for the practicing. Moving forward, I think we have already covered the SWOT analysis part. Let's give a quick recap to what all has been covered in this lecture, because lecture number 4 will continue with the corporate analysis and will continue with the another concept, that is the value chain approach. So in this we have discussed what is the corporate analysis, what is the internal corporate analysis, why it is done, and what is the resource-based strategy according to Grant. He also explained over here the resources, the capabilities, the competencies, the core competencies over here, and the significance of the resources, the useful of tangible assets and the intangible assets, thereby giving the competitive advantage to the market. And resources, we've also defined the resources. Resources are always in terms of assets and skills. Assets are tangible and intangible assets. Skills are that are honed, that are developed over a period of time, and by more practicing they're developed in a very unique manner because they are unique to any company. We also have studied about the capabilities and competency, that what are the capabilities, what are the competencies. So here gives the small equation that will give you the rough idea about the capabilities and the competency and the difference between the two, and the difference between the two. Then this model will explain you skill, capabilities and competencies. This gives competitive advantage, core competency, organization capabilities, individual skills. It is a blend of competence, capability, and skill. We have also discussed about the uniqueness of the organization resources in terms of patent, licenses, location, distribution channel, employee motivation and skills, design skills, process improvement, internal relationship, interrelationship, and then the internal analysis approach one, that is a SWOT analysis by taking the example of Hero Honda over here to find out the right blend between the external and internal fit, and explain the what is strength. The strength should always add value, and weakness should always be dealt strategically in order to finish it off as a weakness and to develop it in the form of a strength. So this is an example of a Hero Honda with the analysis. Here you can see that it is referred to the linked set of value creating activities starting from a scratch, that is the raw material, to producing or marketing a product or service and distributing it to the final customer. So it basically talks about the what are the activities that are creating the value. Apart from that, basic from the scratch, that is from the raw material, and to producing of the product, and then also marketing a product, service, and distributing it to the end user, that is the final customer. You can see there's a typical chain value of a manufactured product. First, it is the raw material. Company has to harness about the raw material. Then the primary manufacturing, you fabricate it, you product produce and distribute, and finally it goes to the retailer. This is the value chain analysis and what kind of value being added at every step. So in a present day, it is very important to outsource many functions because it helps in reducing the cost of the product and services. According to, as you can say, that Galbraith has said that company center of gravity is that part of the chain where its expertise and capabilities lie. That means the company is performing, the company is an excellence in the chain because it has a lot of capabilities and expertise in that area, and the core competencies are the main base behind the growth of the company and the success of the company. So it is a point from where the company is started. From this point only, the firm establishes the forward and backward linkages along the value chain, and this is a process known as vertical integration. So the whole concept is about the value chain analysis. Whole concept is about the value chain analysis. Okay, moving on again, we have studied the model that says that key and strategic, the strategist, whenever go for the value chain analysis, they start from the raw material and then finally reaching out to the product, reaching out the product to the end user, that is the retailer, through retailer to the end customer and the consumer. So जितनी भी एक्टिविटीज फर्म्स में होती हैं in an industry that we studied through an analytical tool which is known as value chain. At every step the value is being created. So therefore value chain tends to identify and segregate the various economic value adding activities, all those activities that are adding value, like differentiating a product, lowering the cost, and meeting customer needs quickly, that occur in some way in every firm. So value chain also helps in identifying the various economic value adding activities from the other and trying to add value to every step. Also, next point says that it portrays activities required to create value for customers often given product or service. So value chain analysis also offers an excellent means, a very good means by which the managers of the company can understand their strength and weaknesses, that where which activity is more strengthful, which activity is full of weaknesses. So the strength can be harnessed and weakness can be coped up by with comparison to the firm's competitors. So it also tells where the low advantages exist. This analysis, the value chain analysis, that means you are assessing the value of every step in the process chain and trying to find out the low cost advantage in which activity can be taken, which activity can you move forward in order to differentiate it from that of firm's competitors. How to deliver the optimum product in the best quality price to these customers in order to get their satisfaction as soon as possible, and thus to maintain the customer bank also. The customer may not hop from one company to the other company, but we should also maintain the customer. So a corporate value chain as proposed by Porter can be studied through various steps. The first was corporate value chain given by Porter can be used as a framework for identifying competitive advantage. We all are talking about the competition, competitive advantage in the so Porter described that corporate value chain should always identify the competitive advantage, thereby keeping those steps in the chain where they are adding value and eliminating those steps where it is not adding value. So it proves a systematic method for displaying and categorizing activities. As you can see that here we have studied about that the ultimate objective was to deliver the satisfaction to the customers. So moving ahead, there is a figure that shows the 9 areas. We'll come to it. So the figure shows the activities performed by the firm are grouped under 9 areas. So basically, it is a systematic method for displaying and categorizing the activity that are involved in the value chain analysis. So at every stage, at every step, at every stage, there's an opportunity in the value chain that would contribute positively towards towards the company's competitive strategy. That means uh, you are able to perform the activities in a better way in comparison to your competitors, and you can always excel and have a competitive advantage. So a very competitive advantage becomes a long time. It should be defensible, it should be profitable, it should also add value to the market, and it should always be valued by the market. Even the industry structure can be favorable or unfavorable, or average profitability being very normal. So value activity on the basis of can be categorized into two parts, that is primary and support. So you can see that. What are the support activities? What are the primary activities? So the support activities are firm infrastructure, the infrastructure of the firm, how the firm is constructed, what are the facilities and resources available in the firm, what is the HR department, how functional and effective is the HR department of the organization, what kind of R&D and technological advancement is with the company, and what are the procurement mechanisms. These are the second support activities. Primary activities are bound logistics, operations, outbound logistics, marketing and sales and services. These are the primary activities that mark the excellence of a company in a competitive world. So value always refer to the amount that buyers are willing to pay for the firm. Willing for the firm provides them. Any key value always refers with respect to the customers, that is the buyers who are willing to pay for what a firm provides them. And the firm is giving a particular product and the customers are paying value the amount with which the companies earn profits. So company, it is not one way, it is a two-way process. The company is giving services or products to the customers, and customers in lieu of it is providing money. So a firm profit value will increase or exceeds the manufacturing costs. Hence, it means that company is doing good because the manufacturing cost is less and the profit the company is getting is more. So that means obviously it is a profitable company. So it should be used instead of cost to analyze the competitive position. What is how successful the company is going
should be analyzed by the profit the company is earning from the market and by adding value to the customers and the society. So it basically provides a total value and consists of value activities and the margin, that is the profit margin. The manufacturing cost if comes to 2,000 and the profit is around 5,000. The company is also earning or adding by 3,000 profit. The company is ahead of the competitors. So there is a term value activity that refers to the physically and technologically distinct activity performed by the firm. There are certain activities that are unique to a particular company. They are physically and technologically different. They are the base of the company. They are the building block of the firm, which creates a product valuable to its buyers. Margin refers to the difference between the total value and the collective cost of performing the value target. One example is profit margin. So margin here refers to the difference between the total value the company is putting into and the collective cost of performing the value activity. This is the margin as we can see here in the model. So there's a difference between the primary and the support activities. Primary activities always refer to the activities involved in the physical creation of the product. What activities, what steps you are involved into by creating a product to physically uh, is sale and is transferred to the buyers as well as the after sales service. So you buy, suppose you bought a washing machine. So building and manufacturing, the cost of manufacturing, passing it to the various stages, finishing, packaging and loading and various logistics will include all costs, and the way it has been went to the shop, where it has been put into the shops, the retailer, and they are being sold to the buyers and the after sale service of that particular machine. They are grouped under various categories. That is the inbound logistics, that is the raw material. You have to procure the raw material to manufacture a particular product. Then the operations, that means the manufacturing, that is machining, assembling, testing, producing, cleaning, and everything. Then you have outbound logistics, that means you're distributing your product in the various markets through dealers or through the retailers. Then come the marketing and sales. How efficient the company is marketing the product and sales, that is the advertisement and the promotion of the product. And then finally service, installation and giving the after sales service. So these are the primary activities. Support activities are those activities that support primary activity. That is the reason they are known as support activity. They provide inputs and can be divided into four main areas like firm infrastructure, like what is the general manager of a company, which strategy the leaders are following, what is the scenario of the management, what is the account department doing, finance strategy and the planning part of the company, how the human resource management is devising the policy with respect to recruitment, selection, training, appraisals, and various other welfare policies. What is the technological advancement of the company? Do they have the R&D in the department? They are developing the product, they are processing the product, they are continuous into R&D process. And finally, the procurement, that is purchasing of the raw materials, machines, and supplies. How do you conduct a value chain analysis? There are various steps, as you can see. After that, we study financial analysis, key factor rating, and this is an example. And then this will end your lecture for today. So how you will conduct a value chain analysis? It involves basically four steps. The first step is identifying the activity. First of all, value chain requires a company to segregate all its operations into primary and support activity categories. The firm, as you just saw, that primary and support functions. So the company has to segregate all the activities under two heads, that is a primary and support activity. And within each category, a firm has to perform number of various activities that may project the company's strength and the weaknesses. Number two, allocate cost. So BCA also requires manager to assign cost and assets to each activity. Like what every activity uh, costing is, why this activity is important, and can we eliminate this activity, or this is very important, what value that activity is adding. So it should be totally different from one field finds in traditional cost accounting methods. They are very different. Third, identifying activities that differentiate the firm. Now, what are the attributes that differentiate firm from the other firm and the other competitors? So, in this, The manager should always aspire to identify several sources of differentiation advantage related to the competitors or the external. Last, examine the value chain. Once the value chain has been described and disseminated, managers should always list down the activities that are crucial for the buyer satisfaction and obviously to get the market success. So value chain always involves the four steps. The first, identifying the activity, those dividing into primary and support. Secondly, allocating the cost, which activity is costing and what is an asset about. Then what to identify, and also identifying the activities that differentiate the firm. And lastly, examining the value chain. Now, financial analysis. Financial analysis is a very important method for understanding the strength and weaknesses of a firm within that particular industry. Managers, investors, and creditors all employ some form of this analysis as a standing point of their financial decision making. So every person involved, every stakeholder in the company, be it a manager, be it an investor, be it a creditor, utilize this information for their basic decision making, and they use the financial analysis for the decision making about whether to buy or sell the stock they are having. Creditors use this in deciding whether to give money or to not. That is, a company position is always important before you are lending money out to the firm. So managers use financial analysis to find how the firm is doing currently in comparison with its past performance. That is, the managers tend to analyze and compare the company's past performance and the present performance, and also the performance not only in terms of profit but also in terms of the competitors. So there are four basic group of financial ratios: liquidity ratio, leverage ratio, activity ratio, and profitability ratio. We're not going into the detail because you've already studied this in your basic financial management. So the key factor rating, this is another method. This method always takes into account the what are the crucial factors and the variables that affect the functioning, overall functioning of the organization. All information pertaining to key factors is collected after the series of discussions, meetings, and survey with the managers and the expert. The answer to all these questions in these functional areas are being closely examined with the view to get the key factors. That means you tend to identify the variables and the factors that affect the functioning of the organization. So the impact of one variable that of the other, or one factor over the other, or the organization functioning of the company, whether favorable or unfavorable, also help in examining using the mathematical model and trying to find out the current position of a company, thereby helping the managers to take the decision. So this is a function area profile in the resource development matrix, was given by Porfir and Kendall to give the comparative analysis of firm's own resource deployment position and also to focus on the efforts with those of the competitors. So firstly, the technique requires the preparation of a matrix. As you can see, there is a matrix and there is a timeline: 3 years, 2 years, 1 year, and the current year. Functional matrix of the areas with common features. For example, here we are focused on the financial outlay, the physical resources position, organization system, and technological capability. Secondly, a matrix is prepared showing deployment of resources, how these resources are deployed, and the focus of effort over the period of time. That means a timeline. And it's compared to that of competitors. So this profile shows how these functional areas are standing in relation to that of the competitors and also with against each other with regard to the deployment of the resources, and the entire focus of these efforts is in the each functional area. So matrix can be portrayed like this. The company may change their matrix from company to company or industry to industry. So here you can see there are 5 functional areas: R&D, manufacturing, marketing, finance, and management, and the percentage of outlay, focus of efforts in the various span of time. So this sums up your lecture, and this also finishes your corporate analysis. So let me give you a quick recap of these slides that we just discussed. Corporate analysis we have covered in the lecture 3, and we are winding up in the lecture number 4. So value chain analysis, what value it is adding at every step, what is a vertical integration, and what is value chain, why value chain is important, how it helps the customers, and how it helps in creating value for the company and retaining the customers. What is the Porter model for the corporate value chain? He explained in the form of a matrix and in the form of primary and support functions of the company, different activities, and the various value chain, value activity refers, margin. What is margin? We have also studied about the primary activities and the support activities. What all comes in the primary activity? That the main activities, that is the trend setter for the competition, and the companies managers are able to organize it, and due to which they are moving forward with the competition, and the support activities that are backing the primary activity. The company has to identify the primary and support activity, thereby segregating the activities and the value that each activity is creating for the company. So this is the four-step process of conducting a value chain analysis: identifying activities, allocating cost, identifying activities that differentiate the firm, and examining the value chain. We have also studied the financial analysis that is able to understand the strength and weakness, and thus information is harnessed by various stakeholders like managers, investors, and creditors. And creditors also use it whether to lend or not in order to understand the current financial position of a company. And four basic financial ratios: liquidity, leverage, activity, and profitability ratios are considered. And this is the three-factor rating. We tend to identify the factors that affect the overall organization functioning, and the matrix that has been used given by Hofer and Sandel. This we sums up the lecture, and we try to find out more and more resources and examples in the coming up lectures. Thank you so much.